Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. So today is the 9th, right, of April 2017 in Los Angeles. 9th, 2017 in Los Angeles, and we're going to be looking at some verses from this book, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, written by Krishna Das Kaviraj. And this is a book written about the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who really was the one who started the Hare Krishna movement about little more than 500 years ago, although it was, of course, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada who took the movement out of India throughout the world. So I wanted to look at a few verses here that I thought would really be very exciting and very inspiring. At least I found them so, and I was really wanting to share them. So we're looking at the Madhya Lila. Madhya means the middle, so this is the middle Lila, chapter 22, called The Process of Devotional Service. And this is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you're not so familiar, the altar here on the left is Chaitanya Nityananda, when he's explaining the process of Bhakti Yoga. And he gives this really wonderful verse in text 105. I will just read the translation. It's when transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice. And Srila Prabhupada wrote a short commentary on this verse, which I'd like to read, and then I'm just going to read another couple verses that don't have commentary. So Srila Prabhupada's commentary on this verse, he says this verse is found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 122, because living entities are minute, atomic parts and parcels of the Lord, devotional service is already present within them in a dormant condition. Devotional service begins with Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. When a man is sleeping, he can be awakened by sound vibration. Therefore, every conditioned soul should be given the chance to hear the Hare Krishna mantra chanted by a pure Vaishnava. One who hears the Hare Krishna mantra thus vibrated is awakened to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In this way, one's mind gradually becomes purified, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. When the mind is purified, the senses are also purified. Instead of using the senses for sense gratification, the awakened devotee employs the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the process by which dormant love for Krishna is awakened. So again, I'm going to read the next two verses also. The spiritual activities of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so forth are the natural characteristics of devotional service. The marginal characteristics is that it awakens pure love for Krishna. And the next one, which is a very often quoted verse, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So here we learn that our natural position is to be in love with God and to use everything that we have and everything that we are in that love. And we're also told how we can awaken that love. How we could say better, reawaken that love. So especially at the present time, there's quite an interest in doing what is natural and going back to what is natural, to eating natural foods, to living in harmony with the environment. Or people want to, do DNA testing to find out what is their nature, what is their origin, where do they come from. There are so many books and courses written on to find what is the best occupation for you according to your nature. What is it that really resonates with ourselves? What is our authentic self? Who are we ultimately? And then there's so many ways to try to find that who are we? What is our nature? As I said, people do DNA testing and they look back, whatever it is, 23 generations or something. And this way I'll find out what's my actual nature. I'm part Peruvian something and part Australian Aborigine and part, as in this way I'll find out what is my nature. Or they take so many tests to find out, okay, what kind of personality do I have? Am I an outgoing person? Am I a shy person? Do I like math? Do I like people? Do I like to work in a group? And there's so many different organizations and books and tests to try to find out what is my nature. Other people try different things. Okay, let me try this kind of job or that kind of job or this kind, and I'll be able to find something that really suits me. Or travel different places and find the place that really resonates with me. Now, in books such as the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about different processes that a person can go through to try to find their real self, to try to find their real nature. And we can look, they're basically in 4 categories, and each of them has kind of a dual possibility. The first category is either karma or karma yoga. So karma is you try to do good things. You try to be a good person. You try to help other people. And you try to act again according to what feels right and natural for you. So it's the path of work, the path of action. And then karma yoga is the path of enlightened action. How to do not just good things, but how to do things, good things, in order to revive one's original nature. And then the next process is gyan, or knowledge, philosophy. When people take these tests to understand what is my personality, what is my nature, they're trying to get knowledge, understanding psychology, sociology, anthropology, all these things. People are trying to find biology, chemistry. What is our essential nature? And then there's Gyan Yoga, where you try to understand knowledge to awaken your spiritual nature. Then there's the path of meditation, Dhyan Yoga, where you withdraw your senses from the world and you make your mind very still. So this is becoming more and more popular in the modern world, of course mostly popularized at the present time by the Buddhists. And so just regular meditation would be you try to make your mind still, you fix your mind on one object, and when you make your mind still, you experience peace, you experience joy, and you get some realization of who you are. Then there's Dhyan Yoga. In Dhyan Yoga, you don't just try to make your mind still, but you try to focus your mind on the Supreme Lord. And by doing that, you understand your nature. And then there's the path of bhakti. So the path of bhakti, this is when people try to find their nature through loving relationships and through service. They try to do altruistic and philanthropic activities. They try to have a loving family, or they try to love the animals, or they try to love nature, and they try to find themselves through love and service. And then there's bhakti yoga, where you try to find yourself through loving service in connection with the Supreme Lord. So all the different ways that we can understand our nature could be categorized in each of these 4, divided into a mundane and a spiritual aspect. And why is it that it's so hard to find our nature? Why is it so hard to find out really what is in our authentic self? It's hard, isn't it? Right? I think it's something that most of us struggle with. Well, who am I? What is my real nature? What is it that really makes me happy? Even though there's so many processes, millions of processes, which could be categorized broadly into each of these 4, still it seems that it's very hard to be successful. If we think about it, even for a little bit, we'll see that most of our relationships with others have some element of pretense, isn't it? There's some kind of posturing that we're doing. There's some sort of acting that we're doing. How often do we say what we really feel or what we really want? How often do we feel, okay, the real me is relating to the real you? Pretty rarely. It's almost like we're sort of dancing around who we are when we're dealing with other people. Well, what would you like to do? Well, I don't know. What would you like to do? Well, I don't want to impose on you. Well, no, that's what I really wanted to do. Right? Do you ever have conversations like this with people? I had a really an interesting experience just recently where I was with somebody that if I said, well, what would you like me to do? They would never be honest with me. And if I just said, okay, this is what I want to do, then they say, okay, you can do that. But it seems to be very difficult. And you find a job that you think you like. I mean, I know so many people who studied, 6, 8, 10 years to find a job that they thought they would love, and they got into it. And once they got into it, they said, I don't like it. I mean, I have friends like that. They studied law. That's a lot of work. They passed their exams and they became a lawyer. And after a couple of years, like, why did I want to be a lawyer? Maybe it isn't what I want. Maybe I want to do something else. Maybe I want to do something else. Or what kind of relationship we want. Especially in the modern world, I mean, people, change relationships like paper towels. It's just like, well, I don't know if I like this kind. I think I want a different brand. I think I want, and who am, what do I want to be? I mean, even people are changing their genders. No, I don't think I'm really a woman. I think I'm actually a man. No, maybe I'm not a man. Maybe I really was a woman. So it seems very difficult to find out who we are. So here Lord Chaitanya is saying, you know who you are? You are a loving being. Your essence is love. That's who you really are. And that's who you really are forever. No matter what changes, no matter where we live, no matter who we're with, no matter what we're doing, no matter what kind of body we have, no matter what kind of mentality we have, no matter what kind of occupation we have, all of those things, who you really are, he's saying. Nitya Siddha. Nitya means forever. Siddha means perfection. He says the real perfection is prema. We are loving beings. In fact, you could say we are in fact love. And when we are loving, only when we are loving, do we say, yes, now I am authentic. Now I am real. But you can't just stop that we are loving. We are loving who or what? Because if I just say loving, remember I talked about the 4 ways people try to find authenticity, right? Through action, through knowledge, through meditation or mastery of the senses and mind, and through love. And there's a material kind of love. I can try to love my pets, my spouse, my parents, something, so many things, my computer, right? I can love my car. So just that I'm loving isn't enough, because if we're loving the wrong object, we don't feel authentic. Have you noticed that also? In fact, it can be very frustrating. You're loving and 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 you're loving. And the object of your love doesn't even, your computer doesn't notice that you love it. Doesn't say, thank you so much for putting me in a protective case. You're so kind. It doesn't notice it at all. And a lot of times the people that we love don't notice it. Have you noticed that the people that we love often don't notice that we're loving them? Right? People will sometimes say that, I worked really late tonight to make some extra money so you could buy what you want. Yeah, dear. Would you turn off the stove? That we don't notice that people are loving us. Okay? George Harrison had a song like that, Isn't It a Pity? Right? We forget to give back. We don't notice. And other people don't notice we're loving them. And you can love someone or something or a cause. You can fight for your country. Right? Especially in despotic regimes. Your best chance of being executed is to be loyal to your government. As soon as the regime changes, the new regime is going to execute you. Isn't it? Okay? Was loyal to my country. Oh, but that was the other dictator. So we have to have the right object of love also, if we want to be authentic. We want to find who we really are. So this is really interesting. Okay, are you ready? You got to hold on for this one. The best object of love is the self of the self. So this is very nicely explained. There's a wonderful story in another book, the Srimad Bhagavatam, about how when Krishna was present on the earth, one of the great celestial beings, demigod, I call him an archangel, Brahma, he came and he decided to play a trick on Krishna. And so he hid Krishna's friends and animals. And then Krishna expanded himself and copied the forms of his friends and animals. And everyone thought that the friends and animals were still there, but they were really expansions of Krishna. And what was interesting is the parents of his friends and the friends of his friends loved the expansions that were really Krishna more than they had loved the originals. And the question was asked, well, how is that? And the answer is very interesting. The answer was that all of us love ourselves the most. Oh, we don't want to admit that, but it's true. Those that we love are someone who's in relationship to ourselves. And because Krishna is the self of the self, therefore he is the greatest object of love. The word used in Sanskrit is Param Atma. Atma means the self. Param means supreme. Prabhupada usually translates it as the super soul, which somehow always gave me kind of a red and blue uniform with spandex tights vision. The super soul. Para means the ultimate soul, the soul of the soul, the soul of the world, the essence of the essence. If our ultimate object, people often talk about, well, you should love yourself first, which is true. You should love yourself. But the ultimate self of the self is Krishna. When we love Krishna, we are loving the super self, the self of the self. And then love for ourselves and love for everyone else is included. Now that doesn't mean that we are Krishna and Krishna is us. People sometimes think that, well, if he's the super soul or the super self and he's the self of the self, then I'm him and he's me. But no, we have some idea in this world that I'm part of a family and therefore if I love the family, that will help me too. I'm part of a country. If I love the country, that will help me too. I'm part of a community. If I love my community, that will help me too because I'm part of the community. But still, I'm an individual. So Krishna's an individual and I'm an individual, and yet he's the self of the self. So when I give my love to that object, to Krishna, because he is the self of the self, I am a part of him. He is the whole of which I am a part. Then I feel completely satisfied. Also, Krishna is very amazing that he notices everything we do for him in love. Everything. Everything. First of all, he notices everything we do anyway. Hridaya Junatistati, he says, I am in everyone's heart. He's hearing everything that we think. He's seeing everything that we do. Matasmatir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. He's giving us intelligence. He's actually aware of everything that we do. And he's grateful for anything we do for him in love, even the smallest thing. Whereas generally people in this world don't notice even the big things we do. They don't even see them. What to speak of being grateful for them, yes? But he notices the smallest thing. I like to give this example. I was visiting someone's home once, and on their altar, they had, generally on the altar, you see that there's cups of water put by the deities, so they have something to drink. Because Krishna says that, Patram Pushpam Pulam Tvayam. Yo me bhakti prajati tadaham bhakti paritam ashnami prayatat. Says you can offer me a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water. So we give Krishna some water. So these people in their sacred space, in their house, in their altar, they put cups of water, but the deity forms they were worshiping were very small. And so the cups were very small. I mean, they were literally like this big. And you could only fit one eyedropper's worth of water into this cup, like maybe a milliliter. And I was thinking, Krishna accepts a milliliter of water if it's offered with love. The smallest thing. That doesn't mean we should do tiny things for Krishna and say, okay, well, you can be grateful with that. But the point is that he is. He's grateful for a flower. He's grateful for a flower. He's grateful if you just say, Krishna, one time. I was with Srila Prabhupada in 1975 in Philadelphia, and he was telling the story of a Jamil who had become a very degraded criminal. And he had called his child by name of Krishna, Narayana, and when he was dying, he called for his child. And the devotee reading, it was a rough draft of the book, and so he was reading, and he called out 3 times, Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, once is sufficient. I did not say 3 times. So to just call his name, even if you don't intend to call his name, if you say, let's go to the Cinerama and watch the latest violent movie. Oh, Rama? You said Rama, Krishna says? You said my name? Oh. And Krishna as the supreme object of love, it's explained that he assumes a form which we want to worship. See, we try to do this in this world. You know, you marry a person and you try to kind of change them to what you wish they would be, or what you thought maybe they were when you married them. Right? And you take your children and you try to mold them to be in a particular way. It doesn't work very well, any of you who've ever attempted this. With Krishna, he actually says, oh, what would you like me to be? And he reciprocates perfectly with the devotee. So he's grateful for everything the devotee gives. And he's very reciprocal. Says, Ye tamam prapadyante tam sadaiva bhajamyaham. Says, as you give me, I give accordingly. So you see, it's very interesting. You give Krishna everything, and he gives you everything in return. So it's equal, right? Is it? So if I give Krishna every single thing I could possibly give him, and he gives me every single thing he could possibly give me, is that equal? No. So wow, what an object of love. He's the self of the self. He takes a form and a manner which we would like to love, and he gives us everything. He gives his very self to us. He gives his very self. I mean, materialistic people would like to have God in the palm of their hand to exploit him. Right? Even most religionists, we have to say, frankly. You know, okay, God, I've got my list here. Like I saw once in a mall at Christmas, a mannequin of Santa Claus with this long list. So people take God like that. Okay, let's see, I want my health fixed. I want more money in the bank. I want to find a beautiful wife. I want a good job. Come on, come on. I'm going to worship you. Here's my worship. Where's my stuff? You know, they want God in the palm of their hand like that. They want God as like some kind of a shop where you don't have to pay. You just flatter the shopkeeper. You just come in and say, you're great. You're wonderful. You're glorious. Now please give me the TV. You know, so it's not that we want to have God in the palm of our hand like that. But if somebody really loves Krishna, then he trusts them. I mean, we're like that too, right? If somebody loves us, we trust them. Yes? If we're convinced somebody loves us, then we let them stay in our home and we keep our wallet lying around and we don't worry about it. We say, you can borrow my car. So Krishna, he also trusts those who love him. So this is our authentic self. Our authentic self is a lover of the most lovable object, Sri Krishna. That is our authentic self. And that authentic self has infinite variety of loving expression. And here's where Krishna consciousness gets very exciting. Because certainly there are many spiritual paths that will say our ultimate self is a lover of God. But what does that mean actually? So we understand that each of us is eternally an individual who has a very individual and unique way of expressing our love for God. I mean, even if we look at the world, we'll see that God is what I like to call a variety person. Every grain of sand you look under a microscope is different, radically different and beautiful. Every snowflake, of course you never see any of those here in LA, do you? But I'm from New York, we used to see snow. So every snowflake is different, and you wonder why. You know, I wouldn't do that. If I were God, I'd just say, hey, make them all the same, you know, be efficient. Who's going to look at them? Who's going to look at every snowflake and every grain of sand? But he makes them all different. Every fingerprint different, even identical twins. Why? Next time you look at a plant, on the same plant, every leaf, every flower is a little different from every other leaf and every other flower on the same plant. What to speak of one plant to another, to another, to another. So he likes variety. He likes infinite variety. So each of us has our own unique way of expressing our love for the perfect object, Krishna. How are we going to find this? How are we going to find our real self? People ask all the time, you know, can I love myself? Yeah, love your real self. Our own individual perfect way of loving Krishna is something that we rejoice in. Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita to relish and rejoice in the self. When we discover our own individual, unique way of loving Krishna, we love that. We go, yes, that's exactly what I want to be because it's who I am ultimately, with no pretense, with no, false negotiating. And how we revive that, my dear friends, is extremely simple. It's really very simple. Hear about Krishna and talk about him and think about him. And naturally, when you do that, you're going to want to do some service for him. And naturally, when you do that, you're going to want to have friends who are also doing some service for him. And you might decide to join a society, like the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so you can do it more effectively with your friends. But that's all it is. Hear things about Krishna, and then you'll start thinking, wow, he's really nice. Wow. He does so many wonderful activities and so many incredible qualities. One of my favorite qualities of Krishna is that he's dependable. And what are the examples given that he's dependable? And I just love this. It says the atheists, those who are demoniac, those who are evil, they know they can depend on God. That if they follow the universal rules, he won't punish them. Can you imagine? What religion teaches this, my dear friends? Most religions in the world teach, if you're opposed to God and you're an atheist, then God's going to send you to hell forever, even if you're a moral, ethical person. Right? Isn't that what they teach? Isn't that fair? Do you want to worship a God like that? I wouldn't. I'm like, that's not fair. So Krishna's dependable. You may hate him. You may be an atheist. But if you follow the laws of the universe, you'll get your rewards. It's even mentioned that there's a heaven for atheists. There's no religious people there. They don't have to worry that anyone's going to try to give them a Bhagavad Gita. That's their idea of heaven, you know. And there's no sunshine there. Everything's just lit up with jewels. I think something like Las Vegas, right? You know, where it's all lit up at night artificially. And they can get to have, if they're pious and they're moral, they follow the rules. So Krishna's dependable. And he's also so dependable. It said the celestial beings, they know that even though there's evil beings in the universe, that Krishna will always protect them. And therefore, even when there's danger, they engage in sporting activities. Because they know Krishna's going to protect us. And another example of how Krishna's dependable, it says that even people who don't have proper training and purification in the intricate Vedic rituals, they know that Krishna just wants love and devotion, and they can depend that he's going to purify them if they simply love him. Those were the 3 examples given of how Krishna is dependable. So when we hear that about Krishna, don't we feel affectionate? Don't you feel affectionate towards somebody like that? I mean, I do. So we just hear about Krishna and we go, wow, I want to get to know him more. I'd like to love him. And as you hear more, and then when you talk about Krishna, it's even more so. Right? If I just read that in the book, I get excited. But if I tell a friend, I get even more excited. Hey, you know how dependable Krishna is? Even if you haven't followed all the Vedic rituals, if you just have affection for him. And then I think, oh, thank you, because I'm never going to follow all the Vedic rituals. It's not going to happen. And I get excited. And when I tell somebody else, I get more excited. And pretty soon our natural love for Krishna starts to awaken. And you want to know what's even better about all this? All the false things fall away on their own. If you, a simple analogy, if you've ever planted any seeds, if you go to a shop and you buy a packet of seeds, right? You ever planted a garden, some flowers, and you get the seeds in a little paper packet, right? If you haven't done it, at least you've seen them in the shops. So of course, generally what you do is you open the packet and you plant the seeds. But let's say you took the packet with the seeds in it and you just stuck the whole packet into some water. What would happen? The seeds would sprout, right? And the paper would what? The paper would dissolve, correct? The seeds would go through the paper. That's really our process of bhakti yoga. Just take what you are and absorb yourself in Krishna. And when you do that, the negative things will automatically, naturally dissolve. And the real self will sprout and grow. So if we want to come to our authentic self, which is a lover of the Lord, which is full of love, and full of love in a particular flavor, the advice given by Srila Prabhupada is don't follow the path of action, knowledge, and mastery over mind and senses through meditation, but follow this simple path of bhakti yoga, the essence of which is just to hear about Krishna, to talk about Krishna, and to remember Krishna. And then whatever we're doing in this world, whoever we are in this world, we'll find that gradually it stops being any impediment and we realize ourselves. So I hope that you also found some inspiration in these verses. I think I'll read the verses again and then we have some time for questions. When transcendental devotional service by which love for Krishna is attained is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service and practice. The spiritual activities of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so forth are the natural characteristics of devotional service. The marginal characteristic is that it awakens pure love for Krishna. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. I would also invite all of you, if you don't already have them, we have many of Srila Prabhupada's books for sale. This is, of course, we're reading today from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We also have the Bhagavad Gita the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, so many wonderful books outside, and these books are the most wonderful way to hear and chant about Krishna. So I really invite you to get some. If you already have a full set, please get one to give as a gift. So questions, comments, corrections, additions, subtractions, chastisements. Yes? I think a microphone's coming your way.
Sorry. I forgot my question. All right, no. My comment was, I read many times, I heard many times that a devotee can do all the Vedic rituals, he or she can give service, be in the community, do all the right things. But if we don't get Krishna's mercy, we don't really connect with Krishna. Can you comment on that?
Yes, I certainly can. Thank you. I'm so glad you asked that question. We're really talking about a relationship of love. So for a relationship of love, both parties have to agree. And therefore we're saying Krishna also has to agree. We reach out to him, he has to agree to reach out to us. So if one takes up the process of bhakti as if it was something mechanical, okay, I am going to read for an hour and a half every day, and I am going to talk about Krishna for 2 hours every day, and I'm going to tick off all the boxes, and I'm going to get love. It won't work. And you can do that for a long time, and it won't work. I mean, could you imagine, some man, he comes home from work, he says, okay, dozen roses, here you go, diamond bracelet, where's my love? It doesn't work. That's not love. You can't, what was the quoting twice from the Beatles tonight, can't buy me love. It doesn't work. So you can't buy Krishna like that. So if we take bhakti as a mechanical process, you won't be successful, or you will be after a very, very long time. That if you do the activities of bhakti even mechanically, eventually they'll spark something in your heart where you'll start doing them out of love, and then it will work. Is that okay? Somebody else? Yeah, I think you're supposed to get a mic because it's transmitted to the universe. And if you don't have a mic, then I have to repeat your question.
If the soul is never born and never dies and it's eternal,
yes,
then how do we account for the increase in population?
Oh.
And also then the third point of it is that, well, I'll let you talk about that.
Okay. Well, souls are not only in human bodies, so there are also souls in animal bodies and plant bodies and bug bodies. So if you get more humans, then you have fewer bugs.
That was the third part. Is the number of jivas fixed? Is the number fixed? The number of souls fixed?
We're just told that it's uncountable. And so I don't really know how to answer that question. I think that's probably a question that's beyond the conceivability of my human brain.
I had asked another teacher.
I think it's like beyond, what do they call that, beyond my pay grade? I think that's a beyond my pay grade question.
And I'm still confused.
Yeah, my sense about that kind of question is it's something you have to just directly realize that you can't theoreticize, is that a word, about it? But we're just told the number of living beings is uncountable.
The other Acharya had said something about souls coming from other planets and other universes.
That's also
something
true.
Like that. So.
That's also true. That's also true.
So, in this Kali Yuga, intelligence is key for survival. Good intelligence means, you can handle this Kali Yuga properly.
Okay.
So, what is good intelligence versus like low intelligence in Kali Yuga?
Good intelligence is to say, I don't have a very long life in Kali Yuga. I don't have a whole lot of time. Let me use it for the most important thing, which is to find out myself. Let me put the most important thing first. That's good intelligence. And otherwise, if you have a 230 IQ and you're a rocket scientist, but you're not trying to understand your real self, then we would say you're not particularly intelligent. And if you've only got an IQ of 60 and, you find it hard to do two-part math problems, but you're realizing yourself, then you're the most intelligent.
So one thing is, I love hearing Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. So is it hearing is better than chanting? Because I commute 3 hours a day, so I hear mostly Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita.
I see.
So I love hearing a lot of things.
Well,
Chanting-
it's really nice. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar Devotion that we should perform the processes of bhakti according to our personal taste. Now, he did give a minimum practice, particularly in chanting on beads. So if you think about this, when Srila Prabhupada had us take vows of discipleship, the only aspect of bhakti that he had us vow to do was to chant on our beads 16 rounds. The other 4 things are really just to make us out of the mode of passion and ignorance. No eating of meat, fish, or eggs, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. Those are not bhakti things in and of themselves, right? You could be an atheist and do those or whatever. But the one thing that he made us take a vow on was our personal meditation of chanting. And so that's something for everybody, no matter what your personal taste is. And then Prabhupada very strongly in many, many places recommended that everybody wake up early, worship the deities every morning, hear the Bhagavatam. So those were also things, he didn't make us take vows about that, but that was also something that he strongly, repeatedly emphasized and recommended for everybody. But other than that, those basic practices, do things according to your personal taste. If you particularly like worshiping the deities, you could be a full-time pujari and spend 6-8 hours a day worshiping the deities. If you particularly like to hear, then spend extra hours in hearing. If you particularly, I met one devotee who chants 150 rounds a day. And I said, well, why do you do that? She says, because it's just so wonderful. I can't stop. Okay, now wait till you hear the rest of the story. So she's married with a son. I think her son's like 12 years old. And she said, the other devotees criticize me that I don't spend a lot of time studying the Shastra. Is that a problem? What do you think? Is that a problem? So I also didn't think it was a problem. I said, well, do you spend any time studying the Shastra? She says, yeah, I go to class every day, but not anything more than that. I said, would you like to do more than that? She said, well, all the devotees have made me feel really guilty about it. And I said, well, you like chanting, right? I said, what about chanting Bhagavatam verses? Would you like to do that? She said, the problem is I don't have any time because all day I'm already chanting. And I said, 150 rounds, plus you cooking and cleaning your house and taking care of your kids and serving your husband. And you got to sleep something. So I said, what about when you're taking a shower? Are you chanting then? She said, no. I said, why don't you chant Bhagavatam verses while you're taking a shower? So she started doing that. I said, well, do you have verses you like? She said, I like the prayers of Queen Kunti. I said, why don't you chant them while you're taking a shower? I said, and then if anyone says to you, you're not spending enough time on Bhagavatam, you can say, well, I'm doing that every day in the shower. So she was happy. Is that all right? Okay. Yes. Microphone over here, please.
Is there a difference between the self-realization that Prabhupada says self-realization and some Mayavadi says that they are different, yes?
Is there a difference between self-realization and?
Self-realization that Prabhupada says self-realization.
Prabhupada's self-realization, yes?
What does he understand by that? And Mayavadi says
Oh, and
also
Mayavadi's self-realization.
What's the difference between?
What's the difference between Prabhupada's self-realization and Mayavadi's self-realization? Okay, so Mayavadi's self-realization is just like if you say, oh, I'm alive. And that's your self-realization. I mean, think of it materially speaking. You know, let's say materially speaking, you got into some kind of accident and you were in a coma for a while and you finally came out of the coma and you're like, I'm alive! I exist! And Prabhupada's understanding of self-realization is, what is my name? What is my form? What is my service? What is my relationship with the Lord? How do I express my aliveness in love? In a very particular individual way. Is that okay? Yes, Sundari. Microphone. Wait for the microphone.
Okay, I have a question about, it's a little bit off tangent, but okay, Lord Brahma is supposed to be it's a position that the soul changes every...
Different souls take that position, yeah.
Okay, so in this particular creation, Lord Brahma is also a member of the Parampara, right?
Correct.
So is this member of the Parampara permanent, and is he temporarily Lord Brahma, or is Lord Brahma permanently a member of the Parampara, and that member of the Parampara changes?
I think that's another above my pay grade questions. The particular living being who's Lord Brahma, who's a member of our Parampara, is not always Lord Brahma.
Right.
Is there always a Parampara that starts with whoever happens to be Lord Brahma? I have no idea.
Because
that would be another universe and another creation. And I just don't know.
Because Prabhupada is always a member of the Parampara, right?
Excuse me?
Srila Prabhupada is always going to be a permanent member of the Parampara.
In this manifestation, yes, like that. But as far as like in other universes and other, I have no idea. I really have no idea. Okay. I mean, I'd be wildly guessing. We have 2 minutes to 6. Okay. One thing I was trained was not to wildly guess. Someone who didn't ask, this gentleman over here. One thing I was trained by Prabhupada and the devotees is don't wildly guess.
Sorry, this may not relate to many, or I hope it doesn't sound very mundane, but referring to being who you are or who you were, is the devotee allowed to be an athlete?
Allowed to be?
An athlete.
An athlete. You're talking about in this world?
Yeah.
Well, there's one gentleman named Peter Burwash, who was, I mean, now he's older, but he was one of the top tennis athletes in the world. And when he met Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said to him, play tennis for Krishna. Does that answer your question?
I really hope so.
Okay.
It's just for certain, I mean, because of the whole vegetarian, not meat eating, there's certain sports that, balls are made of leather, gloves.
Oh, that kind of question. I think for a question like that, it's better if one accepts a particular guide or guru in spiritual life and brings that a question. That's because that's such a personal question. If one says, in my particular job, in my particular occupation, I'm obligated to use such and such things. Am I allowed to use them, or should I change occupations? I would say that's a very personal, detailed question, and that's one reason that we should have a personal guru who can guide us in spiritual life and mentor us in spiritual life, because the answer to that question may change from one person to the next. Does that make sense to you? That's not the kind of thing you can give as a general principle. The general principle Krishna gives is that every occupation has fault, just like smoke covers fire. So whatever occupation you do, you're not going to find any way of life where there's no fault. That's just not going to happen. Krishna says it's not going to happen. There's going to be some fault. Is that an acceptable fault in a particular person's occupation? Is a personal question. Is that okay? Sorry to not be able to, but I wouldn't be proper. So do we have to, and now it's 6 o'clock? Yes.
I just wanted to know that when you're being put through so many tests and you feel like you finally got it and there's one more, what else can you do to feel like you finally got it? Like, you feel like, okay, I've done this for you, I've done this for you, I've done this for you, and you're putting me through so much more. What else can I do? What else can I give to Krishna?
There does come a time when even though things are dynamic, they're not painful. So once we come to a stage called nishta, which means we're at least 50% free of passion and ignorance, the struggle, the hard struggle with determination is over, and things come automatically. So you don't feel like this is a really heavy test, and what more can I do, and I'm agonizing. That doesn't go on forever. It doesn't. However, our growing and our expanding and that dynamic of love goes on forever. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. If what you're asking is, if I'm in a particular test, how do I find out what I'm supposed to do? Is that what you're asking? How do I find out what my particular lesson is right now? I don't know if you're going to like my answer. It's entirely based on our sincerity with actually wanting to know the answer. And if we don't want to know the answer, we don't get it. So if we're saying, okay, Krishna, what am I supposed to do now, okay? He doesn't tell us. So those are two different ways of answering your question.
Thank you.
But what I found over and over again is as soon as we go to Krishna and say, I am ready to hear whatever truth you have to tell me, I'm going to hear it, I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to act on it, whatever it is and whatever the price. Then you will be told, and you'll be told very quickly and very clearly. So that's what I've seen over and over again in hundreds and hundreds of people. Okay?
Thank you.
I hope one of those answers was an answer for your question. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.